Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. We are here for another exclusive coach feature, and today we are hearing from founder and head coach of Team Legacy, who began coaching in 2015 and has turned over 37 competitors from bikini, men's physique, figure, and women's physique into IFBB pros since then. And he has a 5-year-old son and was a collegiate track athlete and earned his pro card in men's physique himself in 2014 when he won the overall at USA's, and he stepped on the Olympia stage twice. So we have quite the guest today who I'm super excited to talk to. So welcome to the show, Ryan Hinton. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you. I'm excited to have this conversation, Celeste. I really appreciate you having me.
Yes, of course. Me too. And to give everybody a rundown, of course, if this is your first time hopping on, you came on for Ryan and you haven't heard the other coaches' episodes, I'm just going to give you a little insight into what this is. So usually I interview IFBB pros, but I wanted to do a little coaches feature. So what you can expect on the episode today and any of the other coaches' episodes is I'm asking every single coach the same exact questions. And the intention is to really give the listeners, you guys, an idea of the strengths and passions that each individual coach has to bring to the table. So not only are we going to go through a philosophy round, but we're also going to go through a hypotheticals round and then a rapid fire round. And then there are specific topics I've chosen for each individual coach that we're going to get into as well. If they're not brought up during the rounds, then they'll be brought up at the end. So just to give you guys an insight, this is not at all about a popularity contest, who's better than who, which way, that way, whatever. You know, just like every individual is different, so are these coaches. So I'm excited to share them with you guys. And Ryan, are you ready to dive in?
I am.
Okay, cool. So let's start with philosophy. What would you say your coaching philosophy is?
So I love this question. I actually get it a lot. You know, when people contact me who may not know much about me or they don't know anyone that's already with me to kind of get an idea, it's such a broad question. And I feel like when I started coaching, or when I started doing anything, you can usually see gaps where things are missing. Someone's always missing something, especially even with athletes. You can see on stage, there's usually gaps. Someone's missing something. So I saw what coaches were missing and I saw that I could fill those gaps in. And that, you know what I mean? Instead of like just doing what everyone else does. So, what I tell everyone is that I don't have a philosophy. I don't have a certain method, because if I did, I could probably only coach a certain type of person. And, you know, I noticed, you know, a lot of competitors, they all kind of looked the same. Meaning, you know, if you have two different structures, two different body types, you can't try to make them look the same. They just have to look their best at how they are. So what I do is I take someone as they are and just pay attention to how they're going to respond. And like, so, and I guess after a while you get kind of good at hitting the nail on the head pretty quickly. But you do have to learn someone's body. So I think for me, it's just paying attention. My philosophy is paying attention, and whatever it is that physique needs, I go with that. And as opposed to just forcing one way, you know, because I know, you know, people ask about all these different methods. Well, the truth is they all work. So why take some of them out and say, well, don't do that. One thing, you know, works for this person. And you know, I don't have a philosophy other than just paying attention.
I love that, though. I think that's awesome. And I totally agree with you. Like, don't discredit one thing just because you found a method that works when that could potentially work for the next person that comes to you. So as a coach, what kind of mental and physical or even emotional demands are placed on you or tolls does it take on you, and how do you handle those types of demands?
Ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. Um, physically for me, and so my clients make fun of me all the time because I stopped training. I don't really train here and there. I didn't have a gym membership for probably over a year. I just got one recently, and maybe 2 months ago, and I've been 3 or 4 times. But I do stick to like meditating because mentally, I think it's everything as a coach,
Yeah.
and especially like I'm sure the other coaches on this podcast that you're interviewing, they get asked the same question all the time. Well, how do you handle so many athletes? How many athletes do you have? I don't know. If I sat here and counted, that'd be a waste of time. But all I know is that mentally, I feel great. You know,
Mm,
I don't know my workload. All I can say is that I'm happy. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But yeah, mentally, it is huge. And I think that it's hard for competitors to understand that when you're in that state, like a contest prep state, no, there's absolutely no way that I could do this and still compete at the level I was competing. There's no way. So
Mm.
mentally, it's everything. Um, Physically, that's that's fine. I mean, I get my sleep. I travel. I like traveling, luckily, so I go to shows.
Yeah.
But I cannot say enough how important the mental aspect of it is, and I think that's where I excel. And emotionally, if you have emotion in this, you won't last long as a coach at all because
Mm.
it can. This is it's supposed to be a hobby, and if you take it personally and it becomes a job, you end up having like a sour taste about it. So I don't take things personally. I'm just here to help people be successful. Um, win or lose, win or lose.
Mm.
I can't tell you, how many people I've seen that didn't do well and had a great attitude. Like I had the best time of my life. I made a ton of friends. It's the best I've ever looked, and it wasn't based off of a placing. You know, your
Mm.
happiness starts with your core and with yourself. And so if something in your life is taking away from it, like competing, then the competition world isn't the issue. It's with yourself. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like yeah.
true.
So
100%.
and that goes for coaching and competitors.
Oh yeah.
If coaching made me unhappy or made me feel some type of way, I wouldn't do it. Obviously coaches make money. We do this as a living, but it's no different than you going to a job that pays you really well, and every time you walk in there, you hate it.
Mm.
You don't like the people you work with, and you can't control that. So, and that'll bring me to another conversation I'm going to have later on.
Yes, I'm very excited about everything we have planned for today. And I like what you said about how like the happiness starts within you. It can't come from an external source. Of course, when you win a trophy or you qualify for something big or you like achieve a goal you want to achieve, that feels awesome. But most of the times it feels awesome because it's connected to some sort of internal emotion or thing that we've created within ourselves, right? That's something we overcame. And that was something I learned the hard way. My very, very first show in 2015, I didn't place. And then I was like so upset. I mean, I was proud of myself for how far I came, but I was just upset. I was like, I don't like this sport. I don't like anything. I don't have any friends back here. Like, there was nothing else I gained from it really, other than obviously my own personal discipline. So then when I found inner peace and inner happiness, then I came back and started actually winning, not just on a physical level, but mentally and emotionally as well. Competing became something I loved.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
what do you think makes a coach a good coach?
Mm, that's a good question. Um, I think part of what you just said is, at least for me, I usually like when I see a lot of these coaches, I hear about them before I actually meet them. And so you hear how great they are and how they interact with their athletes. Maybe you see them on social media. I know people like interaction, at least just from what I've noticed. And something that's rare is longevity. Um, the retention, how long athletes generally stay with them. um, is usually a good indicator, at least in my opinion. I know some people don't understand that competing is such a it's a short part of your life. Um, so you can't necessarily expect someone to stay with the same coach for life, especially if things aren't working.
Mm.
But consistency more than anything, and not only consistency in the athletes and the look, but how you treat people. Um, Common thing, things don't work out, you move on for the coach or for the athlete, and people come back. That's consistency, though.
Yeah.
Nothing changed. Just executing, I think, is more important than anything. I've met a lot of great coaches around the country, so that's why I'm so grateful to be on this podcast.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you're here. And this is one of the things that we had both discussed, like bringing to the table on this show too, was like, how do you think more coaches can come together and develop better camaraderie and support for another?
Um, Man, that's a great podcast in itself. That's
I
a
know,
whole
right?
topic. Yeah.
Go for it.
Well, just in general, honestly, I've never met anyone that was extremely successful that uh, didn't lift other people up.
Mm.
Um, I was lucky enough to have some mentors in this industry, and can be considered their uh, competition. And the coolest thing to me was that they were checking on me, helping them. I'm like, I'm coaching against you, and you're helping me, and I have nothing to give to you, nothing to give back. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And this person is massively successful. But it just makes sense. I'm like, if you're massively successful, what does it matter
Yeah.
if we're coaching against each other? And so those are the people that I gravitate to, the coaches that I see showing each other love. And when other coaches' names come up, they have nothing but positive things to say about them.
Mm.
Because I'm sure, we have parents. We all have parents, and hopefully we love those parents. But we could say something negative about our parents if we wanted to. But I'm sure you wouldn't. So you have the choice to speak life and to talk good about someone when they're not around and when they can't defend themselves. And that's just a consistent thing that I've seen with the successful coaches in this industry, is that they always have something positive to say about other coaches.
I love that so much. I actually got a message the other night asking like, how do you go about like talking to like other coaches that aren't like your coach for this specific feature, right? And like, what if they've said something about like the team you're on or the coaches you have? And for me, it's like, well, we're all still people, right? Like at the end of the day, like we're people, we're human beings, and we all have something different to bring to the table. And it's super cool for me to hear these different ideas. And I love what you're sharing here. And I especially love that you said like the very successful people are the ones who don't choose to get into that crap. They're not putting other people
Yeah.
down. They're not bringing negativity. They're like you said, breathing life into it, speaking life into it. And I'm curious too, like kind of branching off of that topic, which is like, what do you think about the people who, or the coaches that are like bashing each other? Because from my perspective, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like it's a scarcity mindset. Like, are you like, it's a scarcity? But then again, I'm like, well, I'm not a coach in terms of physique. So what do you feel when you see that?
Oh, I love this. I love it. Um, well, first of all, I lose a lot of respect for that person, whoever's saying it. And honestly, to a point to where I don't even care what you're saying about who you're talking about. All I hear is that you're saying something about someone who cannot defend themselves. That's number one. And number two, like I said, I have never, every time it's someone saying it, it's usually a coach that's like basically trying to tread water and keep a relevant name. in the industry? Yes, of course, all the time. And this is what blows my mind is that all the time my athletes come to me and they're like, yeah, before I joined, I was thinking about going with so and so, or I talked to so and they definitely told me, do not hire you. And
Oh
I'm like,
my
oh, they said that?
gosh.
Oh yeah, it happened this weekend at Junior USA's. Oh yeah, he said absolutely. If you hire Ryan Hinton, he won't talk to you. You won't. And she's like, and you've checked on me and everything. And she's like,
Wow.
I'm Team Legacy for life. But what people don't understand is like whether you're getting an email or a DM and they're saying all these bad things. Guess what? People screenshot it and they send it. And so I'm well aware of who says what about who, and I just don't say anything. But it has never been a coach that is truly successful. Never.
Mm.
So, and I'm telling you, that is the one consistent thing that I've seen. I guarantee you, the coaches that are on this that you've got on the lineup are not desperate for athletes. I'm a coach that is not desperate for athletes whatsoever. And I can tell you right now, if you really start paying attention, about 98% of coaches in this industry need more athletes.
Mm.
And that's usually the issue. So it's like it's a referral based business. So they think, well, let me just, try to. I'm like, there's so many competitors in this industry. There's no way you can talk someone out of being a great coach. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I hear ya.
You can say whatever, and then it doesn't matter what someone else says about you if you have nothing to base that off of. Because if you talk to my athlete or that person's athletes and you start hearing something consistent, you scratch your head like, well, if they're so bad, then I don't understand how, X, Y, Z. So on that day, you may think, well, maybe this person's bad. But after about a couple months, you're like, I'm seeing a lot of consistency from that coach. I don't understand that other person that said that probably was just talking out of their butt.
Yeah, the truth gets revealed. And I guess that's also a great testament to like personal integrity and personal belief. Like as a coach, as a business owner, as a leader, as a top-notch athlete, whatever it is that you are, regardless of how you approach things, if you stay true and you love yourself and you know who you are, then at the end of the day, whatever people say about you isn't going to be enough to actually change who you are or change how you feel about yourself, because you are the only person who knows who you are. And then the people who have gotten to know who you are the ones who are truly worthy of experiencing that.
Wow. You said it so much better than me. Self-awareness is priceless.
Yeah, self-awareness is huge, huh? Like, I don't even know how any coach could go about, like, I don't think a coach could survive in this industry. And I know there's many that haven't because they've let the talk get the best of them.
Oh, absolutely.
Same thing with athletes, right? Like, they let the talk get the best of them.
Yeah. 100%. Oh, you said it. I'm so glad we brought up self-awareness.
Me too.
Yeah. Because if you get so many times I could have addressed people. I could have, let it bother me, or they said this about me and this and that, and they're making up anything. And I could, but I'm like, well, I know the truth, so let me just continue on to be what I've been and let them keep talking. Because honestly, that happened from the first day I ever started coaching on a local level when no one knew who I was. The first thing was like, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know how to coach. He doesn't know how to coach. And then I turned someone pro, and oh, that was luck. And then the next year, the second year, I turned two people pro, and they're like, oh, well, he just knows how to coach men's physique. He just got lucky. And then 2 months later, I got my first bikini pro. And then they said, well, he doesn't know how to coach girls. He doesn't know how to coach females. I was lucky. And then the next month, I turned a women's physique pro. And I'm like, just keep talking. And the more you talk, I'm just going to keep executing. So it fuels me. Yeah. I don't have to say anything.
What's that quote?
So, yeah, like, it started on a local level.
It's like, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I love that. And it's so crazy because I'm sure there were also those people, like you said, the successful ones, the ones who care and recognize that everybody, there's no competition. We all have something unique to bring to the table, and the right people will find the right people. Like those people with the abundance mindset who are secure and confident were probably the ones cheering you on, like, yeah, man, keep going. Who's next?
Yeah. And I gotta give a shout out to Casey from Boss Bodies.
Oh
She's a
yeah.
great example. A great example. We're at North Americans, I believe, last year. And we kind of been watching each other as coaches. We're running
Yeah.
backstage with our athletes, but we see each other, and and I'm like, man, she interacts with her athletes the same way I do, but we hadn't spoken yet. And then, we got introduced to each other exactly a year. It was Junior Nationals last year in Chicago. And she gave me a big hug and just started complimenting me. Like, I see you with your athletes. You're so amazing, blah, 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 And I'm like, yep, she is just like me. And then a couple months later, North Americans, it was a show. I got nine pro cards, and she gave me a shout out on her story.
Wow.
What does she have to benefit shouting out her competition? And that's what I'm talking about with respect between coaches and camaraderie. She is such a good coach. She doesn't need to bash anyone.
Yeah.
She's lifting up her competition. So, yeah, awesome.
I love that. Be so good you don't need to bash anybody. And quick little side note off of this, I'm going to get back to the philosophy question soon because I'm really glad we covered that. But something interesting in like business and marketing that I think maybe you'll find cool is like sometimes you can take like 3 people in the same industry with different approaches. So let's say you took 3 competition coaches, and one did if it fits your macros, one did clean eating, and one was like I don't know, like a intuitive eating coach or whatever. So let's say you like put those 3 people together and you like pin them against each other, but they're all really great friends. Like what that does is it separates their like lead base, right? So if you have like 300 competitors and now they're seeing these 3 people who are really good friends, almost like saying like why one is not better than the other, vice versa, it separates it. So it actually makes all 3 of those coaches' life so much easier, because then they're like, okay, well, now I'm attracting the people I know I want to attract, who I'm meant to attract. And same thing goes with uplifting them, right? Oh, this is great if
Oh
you're
my
into
God.
this, and this is great if you're into that. It's like now you don't have to go through all these inquiries because you've done it for each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. I knew when you first contacted me, I'm like, I'm not going to be able to get out everything that I usually think throughout the year. And yeah, you're pulling things out that, and that brings me back to what we're saying. I'm like, another reason why it doesn't bother me, if people are talking, they're going to talk. If you're successful, people are going to talk about you. I mean, there's never been a president of the United States that wasn't hated by 40% of America.
True.
Am I right?
You're right.
40%, close to 50% of America hate Donald Trump. They hated Barack Obama. They hated Bill Clinton. You're 40%. That's a lot of people. So, you got over 100 million people in your own country that hate you. So every city you visit, you know what I mean? And you're in the most prestigious position in the world. So I went off on a tangent there, but
a beautiful tangent.
Bottom line is, yeah, but what reason why it doesn't bother me is because, if someone else is deterred from contacting me and they don't know me, I don't want that person on my team anyway, because that leaks over into us coaching and you going over assumptions and not communicating with me. So you just saved me 6 months of stress coaching an athlete that's probably not coachable.
Yes.
Right? Someone that's going to be on the internet or asking, some person at the gym, their opinion on X, Y, Z on their diet. And you know what I mean? Like, You just saved me. So I love it. I'm like, please, like, make up whatever you can about me. Say whatever. Tell them I'm a terrible coach. So
yes, rejection is protection. So
I haven't heard that one. I like that.
It's a good one. Okay, so on the subject of like hiring coaches, right? Because we know there's a lot of talk, but like what are some things that you would recommend girls look out for before deciding to hire someone?
I could tell you the biggest mistake I've seen in the last 24 months, because things change with our industry. The last 24 months, I cannot tell you how many times I've heard people say, well, I hired this coach because they coached this one person. Like this one person. And I'm like, well, you're looking at this one person who did well, and maybe they did well before they were coached by that person. But consistency, pay attention to consistency. How many people have they replicated that for? Was it just that one person that you like, your favorite bikini pro, and no one else did well? How many people, can you put yourself in that position? I cannot tell you how many times people are like, you need to have like a lot of examples, not just one, right?
Yeah.
Because if you got that one person, and I say it's very common, and retention.
That's awesome. That's great insight. And so then what do you think is the difference between a good athlete and then a phenomenal winning champion athlete?
Oh, that's deep. Well, I can speak from my only from my experience, because I guess everyone else is going to have different experience on what they think is a champion, and people are quick to say genetics, but the definition of a champion is so different for a lot of people. And so for me, it's just, if you keep it simple, because I coach very simple. If you keep it simple, you'll enjoy yourself. So if second place in novice is a champion for you, like, I'm all about it, because what's the most important is how you feel. Not if you made it to the Olympia and you hate yourself and you don't feel like a champion. Whether you're crowned a champion with the medal, or I say you're a champion, but it's, do you feel like a champion? And that just goes back to the self-awareness thing. So for me, I try my best to keep things simple, so you don't stress, and remember that this is a hobby. This is not like someone's going to die if you don't get first place.
I feel like so many people listening are like, are you sure?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, no, it's true. Although it's easy to get caught up in that when we're deep into prep, and I'm sure as you experience too as an athlete, it's like sometimes you just get caught up in that external validation of the work you've been putting in, rather than seeing that the work you've been putting in is all the validation you need.
Right.
So then,
exactly.
When it comes to placings, some people are pretty they like to load off responsibility to politics. So what do you have to say to the people who say politics with teams plays a role in their clients' placing, or that all of this is political?
Number one, if you're hiring a coach because you think they have some political pull, you're going to have a very, very tough time in this industry. You're going to spend a lot of money jumping around coaches. And like that, I think that's silly, number one. Speaking of rumors, just last year, I've had someone claim that one of my athletes got their pro card over, like, it was like a political call. And I'm scratching my head. I'm like, am I that important? Do I have if I do, let me know. I didn't know I had some type of, political pull, but no, that's silly, because, and you could just say any example. If you're promoting yourself over, off of that, or if you're interested in a coach from that, and guess what? You have teammates. You're not the only one. So if you're going up against your teammate, you think you're about to get like a placing over, well, then you're still going to get second or third or fourth, depending on how many they are. That's silly. So many times, like, even when I was an amateur, I was told, well, don't do this show. to go get your pro card. It's a political show. I was even afraid. I was so afraid to go do USAs because I never competed out of the state, much less on the West Coast.
Oh, wow.
And I get up, for the overall, and I look in the stand or look at the judging panel. I'm like, I've never seen any of these people in my life. And I'm standing next to 4 people from California for the overall.
That's epic.
You know what I mean? So, people will scare you, especially the gym goers. They'll scare you out of your belief. So, I mean, the whole political thing, you don't know who's going to be standing there. Anything can be made up. I don't watch the news. Speaking of politics, I don't watch the news. Whatever you hear on the news, most of it isn't true anyway or accurate.
Mm-hmm.
So I take the same approach with that. I mean, come on. You can say whatever, this, that, and the other, but, I mean, bottom line is you can only control what you can control. So, you know what? I'll say this. If you think politics is such a big deal, please go hire a coach that you think has a political pool. And in 12 months, come back and talk to me. And you will always find out that it's not what you think it is.
Yeah. I like what you said too about like, don't let people scare you out of your own beliefs. That's pretty powerful. Like the amount of times other people, especially people with no experience actually stepping on stage, like they'll be quick to tell you like, oh, I had a friend or a girlfriend do that. And this is what happened. And it's like,
yep.
You can't say that. And something that I think, like we talked about on some previous episodes, like there's obviously psychology of like recognizing someone, right? But even if that is a bias, let's say like top score and bottom score get thrown out. And then we also consider like, I think that if you go in with that mentality, like you did heading into the USAs, even though it was like scary because you've never gone to California for a show, it's like you were so undeniable that they couldn't choose anybody else.
Right.
There couldn't be a political stunt because it wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't add up. It wouldn't match the requirements of the league or whatever the hell it might be. That was your moment, and no one can take that away from you. And no idea or judgment either.
Yes.
So
you got it.
Yes, I feel you. We're vibing. I like this.
Yeah.
So what are some common misconceptions that people have when they come to you, if any?
Oh, man. The constant struggle with me is at least from what I've noticed, is that, they always revert back to their original, what they had done before. I'm very different from most coaches, meaning, and what I've had to tell, especially some of the guys, because I coach guys too, is I'd probably say 95% of most coaches do the same thing.
Wow.
They do the same thing. So they're like, wait, I'm drinking water today? Like, it's Friday, but I thought I'm supposed to not drink water. Well, I'm drinking Saturday water. Wait, I thought I was supposed to have a burger the night before a show. And I'm like, all y'all eating burgers the night before a show? I'm not saying that won't work. What I'm saying is 95% of people do that. I don't eat rice cakes and peanut butter backstage. Well, where is it written that you have to do that? Let's try not doing it and let's see how you look. Let's try that. And then they're scratching their head like, yeah, I didn't even eat rice cakes. I'm like, wow, crazy, huh? You know what I mean? Rice cakes, peanut. Well, this one show I had jelly and candy. Maybe next time I'll just eat jelly. And, they focus so much on the process instead of just the product. And that, oh my God, talk about misconceptions. I'm telling you, 95% of coaches do the same thing. And it's very hard. A lot of my people have a hard time the first couple of weeks. They're like, but I'm so used to, and I'm like, I hope you didn't hire me just to do the same thing that you were doing with the last coach. Because that would be a waste of money.
Yeah. Great point. Great point, actually. And
I didn't know I was going to be preaching this afternoon.
I'm glad you are. That is awesome. I love that. And it got me thinking about you know, like how you went back to saying keep things simple, right? Like keep it
Mm-hmm.
simple and enjoy yourself. And there was something I wanted to bring up with you as well on this show, which is about working with athletes for extended time periods. And I think this can kind of interweave with that. So what do you think? There's a few things that go along with this question. So like, first of all, like, what do you think is the main benefit in doing this? Why would you urge a competitor to do this? And then second of all, have you ever taken on someone within like a short time period and like really changed up the game for them?
Yes. Second part, great. The first part, what I didn't understand the first part of the question.
So that is so funny too, because actually psychologically, men usually remember the second parts of questions more than the first. So you're like, great example. But no, like the first part of the question is, why would you urge a competitor to take or work with a coach for a longer extended time period like you do?
Gotcha. Yeah. Ooh, okay. So first of all, um, the obvious thing is just letting someone learn your body. If that coach is that type, and I'm basing it off of me, is I want to learn your body and what does and what does and doesn't work. And going back to when we were talking about philosophy, depending on the person is going to depend on how I approach it. So, like I've got amateurs that have been competing for 10 years. So, and they've been pretty successful. So in that situation, I'm not going to come in and say, okay, forget everything that you're doing and do it my way. That approach is more going to be like, okay, let me collect some information and I'll let them kind of tell me everything. And I'll say, okay, we'll change X, Y, Z, as opposed to the athlete that did 2 shows last year. They prepped for 6 months and they had one coach that kind of just coaches as a hobby. I'm going to probably look at what they were doing and say, okay, that's what 95% of coaches do. Forget that. A lot of that is wrong. And hormones, depending on how damaged someone is, how long they've been competing and have run their body into the ground. I have a lot of pressure. At least it's a blessing and a curse that people come to me, but they want it so quickly. They're like, oh, I see what you did with this girl and that girl, and I want it, and I'm 12 weeks out. And I'm like, well, hold on. Like this past weekend, Ashley Reynolds just got a pro card. She prepped for 8 weeks. It was her first show with me.
Wow.
So people see that and they're like, okay, I'm hiring him. 8 weeks. How much for 8 weeks? I want you to. And I'm like, hold. You know what I mean? And that's why I tell people, don't look at one person. Look at collectively. And again, I know my history. 37 pros, I don't know, probably 35 of them were within the first 12 months that they joined me. And probably 26 or 27 of them, it was their first show with me. Maybe not our first prep with me. I won't say first show. We'll do a warm-up. But actually, one of the ones that's been with me the longest, I mean, he just gave me time, and we made mistakes. I found out what didn't work for him. So, but I'm saying all of this with an asterisk because it has to be someone that is actually paying attention to learn your body and not just throwing pissing in the wind, hoping you look good. I've had, people come to me and day one, I'm like, great, you'll get your diet when I get my blood work because I need to see where your hormones at. But it gets back and they're like, well, wait. And I'm like, well, hold on, get the results. And one common thing I've been getting this year is, wow, I'm so glad you made me do that. I didn't realize I was deficient here and here. So now they're more open to listen and say, yes, now you're not 12 weeks out. Now give me 6 months and we're going to work on your hormones. Because you're not going to bring me a beat up hoopty trying to drive from Florida to California. I need a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or something that's going to run nicely so we can bring you in nice. And all of this goes together. All of it goes together like the total package. Mentally, you're going to feel good. Not just, oh, come to me and you're going to get 2 hours of cardio because nothing else is working. Man, you got me preaching today. What was the second half of the question? I don't.
I love this. No, I'm just taking it in. So what was it? The second half was if you'd taken people on, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I have taken people on like that, but it's usually like, and I usually get an email once a week, and it's like I don't like to be rushed. Do not rush my craft.
Mm.
And I get, hey, I'm 3 weeks out. Can you help me? I'm 5 weeks out. I'm 8 weeks out. I don't like how, the situation I'm in. I'm like, okay, well, and depending on the situation, I'll take you on, yeah, but we're going to do a 12-week minimum because I'm not just going to crash diet you into a show just because you want to save face and then you blow up after the show, and guess who is going to look bad on? Me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Ryan Hinton was your coach, wasn't he? So yeah, so depending on the situation, I have taken people on, but it's usually with I'll kind of lay it out with them like this is what it's going to be, and if you're serious about it, then yeah, we'll do. You commit to 6 months up front, but I'm not a 3-week coach. I'm not an 8-week coach. But people see it on Instagram and they think that's everyone. So
yeah, it's like they give into that like marketing of like the exception versus like the rule, right? Like they think that they just fit into that exception when that's not how
everyone does.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, everyone thinks they're the exception. Yeah.
Yeah, we all want to be. It's the easiest way. So then it like least resistance. And we're like, cool, let's do that. But it doesn't always work out like that. And if it does, then we're paying for it later.
Oh, absolutely. Every time. Every time.
So let's get into some hypotheticals now.
Okay.
This first one, if you need more like backstory, we can come up with one or whatever, or like any of these. So I'm just gonna go for it. So if I'm 1 year into competing with a few overall wins under my belt, and my goal is to get my pro card, but I've never stepped on the national stage, and I've been working with the same coach for that whole year, but I was looking for a new approach. Why would I hire you?
Ooh. Ooh. I mean, you're gonna make me say this. Okay. Yeah, I mean, because that's kind of my sweet spot is turning people pro. Now, I'm not suggesting someone do that, but it happens. And one popular thing is that I hear people say, well, give your coach a chance. Give your coach, if you've been with them and winning overalls and you want a different approach, why do you want a different approach is what I'm going to – why do you want a different approach? And I saying this without seeing the athlete in pictures, because I've seen athletes that have won multiple overalls that still should not go to nationals.
Right.
If you just have a local coach that is in the gym with you every day and they may or may not go to the national show and you've never been, you know what I mean? That's a bold move, but I'm speaking for myself that I'm confident in my craft. I don't care if you won. I mean, I had a competitor last year. He got 4th place, but he was qualified for nationals, and 4 weeks later, he got his pro card. So I don't care if you won the overall or what. I'm going to base it off of what I know about your physique. And, I love when athletes tell me about their previous coach, because I want to know, oh, he's X, Y, Z. And I'm going to say, well, I'm like that too. So you may not want to come to me.
Yeah, true.
If we're going to have that same issue, well, he didn't call me every single day. Well, I'm not going to call you every single day. So call someone else.
Yeah. Exactly. I like that a lot. Like, if you want the end result, we got to make sure that I can get you there. And I can get you there with my approach, but maybe that's not the right approach for you.
Right.
So let's say I'm 4 weeks out from a show and I keep saying, I don't feel ready, but you believe that I am. What is your response?
I'm going to ask, what are you basing it off of? And then we usually go back. We'll look at comparisons. How did you look at your last show 4 weeks out? That usually does it. And then they scratch their head. They're like, oh, okay, now I see. Because you're never gonna look in the mirror and say, I'm ready. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. I never did it. Never. Didn't matter what show I won. I was never ready. I always could have looked better. And I know that. But when you put those pictures side by, okay, this was 4 weeks out last year. And normally I'll just send the text and they'll go do it. And 15 minutes later, they send a picture like, oh, my God, Coach, wow, look at the difference 4 weeks out. Never mind, I'll shut up. That usually does it. But if that's not it, I'll ask, how do you feel? We're doing less cardio and eating more. We can cut here and cut there. But is it a mental thing? Because this is all mental anyway. How you feel is mental.
Mm-hmm.
That's in your soul. So I'm gonna ask questions. I like to ask questions to see where your head's at, because I have my perspective. I'm well fed, and I'm not doing a lick of cardio. So your perspective is gonna be different from mine, regardless.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna force you to do something, but I'm gonna work on your mental before I work on your body. Oh, I'm preaching today.
Keep it up. I love it. Yeah, is massive. I love that you're doing that as well. Like, that mindset behind this is so much more important than anything. And plus, like, we know from research that the way that we think about ourselves, or the way that we're thinking at all, is going to play an impact in how our body actually looks and functions. Like, if we have a negative thought pattern and it causes us stress in our body, let's say, our digestive system doesn't function at a high level. Our body's not going to be able to process everything we take in, which means we're only probably getting maybe a quarter to a half of what we should be getting in and benefiting from. So then we end up looking just as much as we're afraid of looking like, right? Like, this isn't always the case, but it plays a huge role. Like, the way we think is going to impact the way we look. Maybe we'll hold on to more water. Maybe we end up being so stressed out that, we don't get a great lift in. We have such negative beliefs that we can't actually crush it in the gym. Like, it's crazy. Or we have so much doubt that we just pull out, we give up.
Yeah.
So I think that's awesome that you do that. And so now let's say your client comes to you and they say they've rebounded after their show and they just want to reverse it and get back to normal. What would you do?
Ooh, how long after the show? Because check-ins were due Monday after the show, first of all. So if you didn't check in with me, that was your responsibility. We talked about this. But yeah, you just assess the damage. I made the dumb mistakes as an amateur and a pro. I decided to leave my show after my show and go on a vacation. Bad idea. Because I'm going to enjoy this vacation. I'm not going to be eating and doing cardio. So I'm not hard on my people, because number one, I think what makes me a good coach is that I've made a lot of dumb mistakes too, as a competitor. And it's your life. Like, it makes no sense for me to be hard on you over a hobby. If this were fishing, I'm not going to yell at you for not catching enough fish. I mean, fishing is a hobby, right?
Great comparison.
It costs money. You have to have a boat, and the motors cost money. You have to pay for gas. If you enter into a competition, there are fees, thousands of dollars. Does that sound familiar?
Oh, yeah.
My uncle's a fisherman, so I know the comparison. So I'm not going to yell at you over it. It's your body, and so we're going to have a talk and talk about your mental. And you're already going to – I know that feeling of being so upset with yourself for not having any self-control. I know that feeling. So I don't need to sit there and say, blah, 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 you should check in. You should have checked in. So I don't have to be mad at you for eating pancakes all week because I know they're delicious. Uh, yeah, I mean, we just start from meet them where they're at. They're feeling low. They're swollen, uncomfortable, miserable. So just take it slow. We'll just chip away. Look, you're already eating 4,000 calories. Let's do 3,500 today.
Yeah. That actually got me thinking just what you said. Like, you're not gonna be hard on them over something like that. And it puts things in perspective, right? Like having like food, whether it's too much or having like a higher amount of body fat percentage now, like it's not the end of the world, right? Like, yes, it can do damage and yes, it can be rough and require some like mental adjustments and everything. But and honestly, most of the times you'll come out stronger from it. So that's a bonus.
Yep.
And then the other thing is like you said, it's pancakes, or it's like let's say 5%, 10% extra body fat. Okay, you've lost it before. Just like, let's go, dust yourself off and let's do this again. Like, you can do it. And then let's create better habits and learn moving forward and kindness and love. I appreciate that you don't bring like a hard on them, because I work with athletes with the post-show blues or who are struggling with their relationship with food and their body and their goals. And something that comes up a lot is, well, my coach told me that I should just like stop eating, or I should just like get back on my shit. And it's like, well, maybe that wasn't a good fit for them as a coach and client relationship, right? But at the same time, like, that's not conducive. That's not helping anybody, right? That's not creating a
Right.
real change. So I think it's really cool that you take okay, let's take this the professional way and see what needs to be done. What do we have to do next? So
Exactly.
I love that. So now let's get into some rapid fires. With these ones, you can answer it with one sentence or less, and then we can pick like maybe two to expand on that like get you really fired up if there are any. Or yeah.
Everything.
I know.
If you can't tell.
Oh my gosh, I love it though. Most people are like, they'll go through them and they're like, oh, I could just tell they want to keep going. They're like, one sentence, like, it's almost like writing an Instagram caption. You're like, how do I make this a little bit less characters but still make sense? It's like that. Okay, so first one, waist trainers.
I don't care. Knock yourself out of it. I've done with it. I've done without it. I mean, whatever.
Cool.
Indifferent.
If it fits your macros or clean eating, like bro meal planning.
Depends on the athlete. I don't trust most athletes, so probably specific meals.
Yeah, I'll say as an athlete, I prefer that. Okay, fasted cardio?
Indifferent. It's cool, but not necessary. Depends on the athlete.
And water cutting?
Not necessary.
Okay, now this one's a little bit more specific. So steady state or HIIT cardio for fat loss without sacrificing fullness, especially in the glutes.
Oh, wait, that's
we get in
yeah,
specific.
That's loaded. Yeah. Man, really just depends on the athlete, because I got some that got some muscle back there, and I'm like, I don't want you doing either. Just walk on a decline. Yeah, I mean, all of this really just depends on what I'm looking at.
Yeah, totally.
And without sacrificing, yeah, I mean, yeah, it really depends, because I've got people with genetics all over the radar, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. So are there any of those that you were like, I want to expand on that?
Ooh. What was the second one?
If it fits your macros or the clean eating.
Oh, yeah. That's the first question I get, and I blame social media.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's one of the main questions I get. And not that I care, because I'm at the point where I don't care whether you join or not. This is it. I'm really happy with my athletes. I love the people I coach. If you want to be an addition to the team, fantastic. But if you're just here for like Instagram and you want to be like whatever, I'm not the coach for you. So I always get asked that. Well, will you do macros? And I'm like, you've never even competed before. No, you don't know anything about your body. First of all, I get that a lot, and they'll say, well, I decided not to go with you because you won't do macros. And I'm like that, and they'll email back in about 6 months. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I tried that and it didn't work, because yes, of course, I tried that years ago and they're like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. It's too much thinking.
It
And I'm like,
is.
I know it is because I tried it. But it's like, some people just come in and they swear they know more than you, which is fine. You might read a lot of Instagram posts, so you might know more than me. I don't know. I don't read Instagram posts. I double tap and scroll. There's like an essay there. I'm not reading it about all this science crap. Like, I'm just more about execution. Let's just do it and find out if it works. So, and I've done that. So I have a handful of athletes that I do macros with.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the team doesn't know that. They probably know now if they're listening, but
You'll begin some
but
emails.
yeah, but it's people that they've shown me their discipline, that they can be smart with their food. It's the first question. They're like, can I trade out tilapia for salmon? I'm like, no, this is not for you then. If something that simple, no, that's not even a direct, like, you can't swap those out. So it's just little stuff like that. It's just, I've tried, and I think that's my expansion on it. Yeah. The ones that have competed for years, you at least have to prove to me that you have that type of knowledge and discipline and enjoy macros, and your body is responding to it. You know what I mean? Or like, even like, we'll do macros up until 4 weeks out, and then I'll do specific meals the rest of the way in.
Mm. When the people you have doing macros are doing macros, do they tell you like what they've been eating so you know like what works well with their body, or how does that work?
Yeah. Yeah. So, and so throughout this time, I'm collecting information. And ironically, those same people are the ones that eat clean throughout the year. I have my ones that, like myself, eat like crap all year, and then it's time to, time to buckle down, I'll buckle down, But yeah, they eat clean all year. And usually when they send their progress pictures and I'm looking, I want to know what I'm looking at. And so I will ask, okay, our macros didn't change, but XYZ changed. So are you still eating, and I'm just collecting information, paying attention, going back to what I was saying before. I'm just paying attention and I'm collecting information. So that is a really good question. I do need to know what caused what I'm looking at.
That makes sense. So, okay, there was one other thing that I wanted to really get into with you, and that was that, you're a single dad and you have a 5-year-old son. So how do you balance raising him along with your lifestyle and, of course, bringing up, these elite athletes? How are you balancing all of that?
So, when I set my goals out, I'm pretty straightforward and aggressive, straight to the point. And everybody knows I hashtag, and execution is worship. So meaning, like, nothing else matters except the bottom line. Like, I don't care how you get there, just get there. And so, and I promise you I'm going to complete this thought. Execution is worship. So I focus on the product instead of the process. And what's important to me right now is my career and my son. So meaning everything else falls by the wayside. I'm not hanging out. Like, I don't really have a lot of friendships. I'm not building for, you know what I mean? I don't hang out with friends. There's certain relationships, work relationships I'm building, but I don't have time for it. I'm with my son and I'm focused on my athletes. That's literally only 2 things. And that is how I spend my life. That is my day. And so, and a lot of people don't understand. They're like, well, he's doing X, Y, Z with his son. And I don't know, I set it up. I do check-ins Monday through Thursday. And then Friday through Sunday, I'm either with my athletes, like at a show, or I'm with my son. And so, like, especially like during off season, like October, November, through February, there's not really a lot of shows. So those weekends I'm with my son. So it doesn't mean you can't contact me. I'm available. But if you're 6 months out and you want to know if you can have green beans instead of broccoli, you better wait till Monday. You know what I mean? Like,
eat your broccoli.
Yeah, little stuff like that. I mean, so for me, it makes sense. I block off my weekends for those three things, for the people that are competing. And then if I'm not at a competition and I decide to stay at home, I'm with my son. He plays sports, so he just finished T-ball season, so T-ball games on the weekends. And so that way I'm not married to my phone. And then Monday through Thursday, if I'm home, he's at school, thank goodness. I can be all in with my athletes, and then I drop him off at 8:00. I pick him up at 3, or he's with his mom, thinking he has a great mother. So we're in the same city, so it's no problem. As far as time goes and attention. How am I a good father? I just pay attention. It's the same thing, and I actually just posted a video about it about 2 weeks ago. Is that spills over? It's how you do anything is how you do everything.
Absolutely. I always think about that when I go to throw something away and a little piece falls on the ground. I'm like, how you do everything, or how you do everything's how you do anything. And I'm like, I gotta pick it up. Like the littlest thing. I'm like, shoot. Once I heard that quote, I was like, I'm done for.
Yeah, you got some good quotes. I see you doing your little personal development.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, it's cool to connect with other people who get it and who see it, and it's just really cool. And I think something I've learned about you just throughout this whole conversation as well is you really value simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
Everything it seems is simple. Okay, just adapt to the demand being placed on you right now. What needs to be done, and then what needs to be done to get there based on what's right in front of me. And that's simple, not complicating it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I love the first little phone calls I have with people, or the first little contact, and they don't know this. I hope a lot of people hear this, is that, and maybe it's a gift of mine, but I know in the first conversation I have with someone, I know how they're going to work out. I pretty much know what type of client they're going to be. Or I know if I don't want to take them on as a client. I know certain things the questions that they ask the wrong questions.
What's the wrong question? Well, actually, you don't want to give it. I don't know.
Well, no, I want to give that information, please. Or they just to say the wrong things, just a couple of triggers. Women don't really say this. It's the guys that say this one. I work so hard. Nobody's gonna outwork me. I'm like, you gotta be ignorant. I want this more than anything. These are the wrong things to tell me. If you want this more than anything, I'm not your coach. I've seen Olympians post, I will die for this. I'm like, stay away from me. Because this is not that, if this is that serious, because I want you to think about this. This is my career and this is your hobby. I won't die for my career. And you're telling me I'm not your coach. I want this more than anything. And I'm like, anything? There's nothing of it. And so being impeccable with your word, that's not something I want to say. So if you're someone who talks like that, or the people that come in my comments when I post transformations, oh, this is the worst. When they did, I'm like, please don't ask me how much for coaching, because it's not going to be a good answer. Is they ask me, how long did it take? If I don't put it in the caption, how long did it take?
Oh man. Why
Wrong
does it matter?
question. Why does it matter? Because if I tell you it took 2 years to build their metabolism and fix their hormones, does that mean that you're not going to do it? Or even worse, are you looking for someone to say it took 8 weeks and you're going to hire that person because they did it in an unhealthy way? Then you don't understand what you're getting into. Again, you're more focused on the process instead of the product. you're just focused on the wrong thing. So, like, if I had an opportunity to sit with Warren Buffett, I promise you, I'm not going to ask him how long it took him to be as wealthy as he is. I don't care. I'm going to ask him, Warren, tell me what to do to be where you are, and I'm going to do it.
Yes, soak that in. Like, seriously, just the space to take that in. That's powerful and so translatable to anything in life. And I love that example as well. And something you had mentioned too was like the people who say like they'll die for it, right? It's like I think there's like sometimes when I love the Generation Iron movies, I'm a total fangirl over them. Like if I was offered to be in one because my podcast is that cool, I'd be like, yeah, obviously. But you know, like sometimes I think about it, I'm like so many of these people or these legends, like they did say they would die for it. You know, like they like if they were given the option of like cut, and I'm not going to bring up like certain parts of this, but like cut off 30 years of your life, but win the Olympia, they're like, hell yeah. It's like, what? Like you have like so many other things to look forward to, but for some people, like you can do both, right? Like, I mean, maybe not in every case or every division, but I'd like to believe that for the most part you can have it all.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know this, a lot of times, not a lot of times, all of it is when you make a goal, in the end of it, it ends up not being about the goal, but the process of getting there, what you became and what you had to become to get there. So I get asked all the time, especially my athletes that turn pro, and they're like, man, what was it like on the Olympia stage? And I'm like, it was just like any other show. I mean, and they're like, really? And people get so upset. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah, really. It really was. It's really not as grand as you think it is. But you probably don't know that 3 weeks out from the Olympia, I wrecked my car and I had to Uber to the gym every day. Or my friend had to come pick me up and I had to put my car seat in his car with my son because, you know, and like it wasn't fun. And then I had to get an Uber back home or a ride back home. And then I had to get an Uber or a ride to work. And that was like my last 3 weeks. Like it was a problem. But what did I become? Because execution is worship. You know what I mean? Like it didn't matter what I placed in the Olympia. You don't know what I went through to get there and what I had to become. And now I'm hard as nails from what I've been through. And it makes it so easy now when I'm at competitions and my Mr. Pro Carb bot and they're devastated. And I'm like, pat them on the back, like, okay. Because I know what it's building inside of them. I know it hurt. I know it hurt. It hurt more than you get in last place at a local show. But I know what it's building them. And if they take it the way it should take it, then it's going to be a positive thing. So, man, I went deep into that. My goodness.
You did.
Can I get an amen?
Amen. I love that. Wow. So much of what you said is just like resonating really deeply. And I'm really grateful that you are so open and you're sharing so much of you and giving us all like a real feel and perspective and so much power in what you said too about like just like know what it's building in them, whether that's a loss or a win or some struggle or a setback. Like you're right, it's building something, it's building them into the next level version of themselves. Like, and you're part of that, like you're witnessing it and it's happening right in front of you, and yet like maybe they can't see it, but you're like, I know what's happening.
It's almost like building a legacy.
Yeah.
You see what I did there?
I do.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So do you think there's anything that I should have asked you that I didn't?
It kind of just would coincide with people contacting, kind of like what I was saying, people contacting about coaching, looking for a coach, and Again, people forget, like, yes, I am a coach, and this is my career. This is your hobby. So understand that the problem is 98% of coaches need more athletes, want more athletes, are desperate for athletes. So they're constantly, and so athletes have this kind of sense of entitlement, some of them. And this is why I don't take on anyone, and why I listen for key words and things that you say, is because just like you go to work and you work a job and you work with people that you may not like or may not, and you have to be around them. I'm a coach. Like, I have to do this. So I have to deal with you. And so so what I'm saying is right now, I am so extremely grateful and happy for the people that I coach. And I'm so lucky because they're so amazing. There's some amazing people. But there are some coaches, and I see certain athletes and they act a certain way. And I'm like, I am so glad you are not on my team. That's one thing that athletes forget, is that, and I think, people don't like to talk about money. I love talking about money. Are you kidding me?
Let's talk about money.
Talk about it.
Money's great.
Because if you've ever worked a job that you hated, but you needed the money, you'll know what I'm talking about. I don't want to coach someone. I don't care if you're paying me $1,000 a day. If you make me sick, if you're a negative person, if this is something that you'll die for, I don't want to coach you. All of those things go together. If you're obsessed with this, it's not worth it.
No.
It's not. Especially because there's so many good people out there. And that one person just comes around, and it honestly, I'm lucky. I'm very, very grateful for the people that are on the team, and which is why I'm so picky. And in fact, right now, this week, there's a therapist on the team, and she's gonna help me find. And that's what she does for a living. She's gonna help me find. I'm gonna have, like, I don't have like a questionnaire. I just like to talk to people and feel them out. Yeah. But there's got to be something online that's like a self-awareness test. Because when I see athletes go online and they're bashing their coach, I'm like, ooh, you're talking about yourself. You're not talking about your coach. Or they go online and they're bashing their ex-girlfriend or ex-boyfriend. I'm like, you're talking about, but you chose them. Because 2 months ago they were everything. You would die for them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Self-awareness is everything. Yeah, so when I see, I like that. Let me go look at your page real quick. Who are you talking crap about? Because in 6 months, that could be one of your teammates. You could be talking about one of my athletes, or me, or a judge. I'm like, it's not that. Was it the judge, or was it just you and your whole prep and how much you really aren't happy with yourself? Yeah, let's get deep.
Absolutely. Yes to all of that. And what you said too about, like, it's almost like you're not going to take money as a trade-in for your standards. Like, it's not necessary for you. It's almost like and like you said with the job thing, if someone offered you a job where you're like, I don't know, like you have to eat shit like every single day, that's obviously going to take a toll on your body, but they give you $1 million. I don't know. I ain't going to do that.
Exactly.
Not exactly.
Exactly.
It's not worth it. As a coach, like, I totally get it. Like, I used to do like lifestyle, like fitness coaching and whatnot, but now more so, and I still do, but not for competitors, more so transitioning now into like the mindset side of things. There's people I'm like, nope, I can't work with you. Like, if you're not willing to see what's going on and be open to new things, there's no way we can even create change. And then that's where we have to be super honest with people. And sometimes it's like, that's the honesty they needed all along. Like, maybe, you know what I mean? Like, maybe they came to us just so we could give them that kick in the butt to be like, oh, shoot, you're right. This is on me. Okay.
Yeah.
let me come back
Yeah,
when I've worked on myself, or hey, can you help me work on this part of me? Yeah, I can.
absolutely.
Great.
That's a different attitude. Yes. Now, can you help me? Yeah. Because there are a couple coaches where athletes will come to me from them, and I'm like, wait a minute, this coach was your coach, and I'm like, those are really good coaches. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
I bet.
I don't think your coaches were the issue, you know.
Mm.
And that's another reason why I love the camaraderie amongst coaches, because I can get on the phone and say, hey, what was it like coaching this person? And I know I'm going to get an accurate answer instead of the athlete coming and saying, oh, yeah, this coach, this, that, that. And I'm like, the whole time I'm like, that's a great coach you're talking about, but I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to call that coach.
Mm.
See, that's what athletes forget, this sense of entitlement, because coaches don't get to defend themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And it goes back to your point of like, if you're already talking about someone who can't defend themselves from that perspective of like almost like there's no personal responsibility, then what's really going on?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, man, people don't understand the greatest thing with me. Like, if you're just upfront with me, listen, I was with this coach. I didn't follow his directions. I didn't do this right, but I'm ready to get right. I'll work with you because I already know. Like, my ass was like, Coach, I've been messing up. And I'm like, I know you have been, but I'm glad that you told me. I will continue to work with you. I don't care that you messed up. I mean, I do, but you know, it's a good feeling. So that's what I'm saying. And that's the type of people that I like working, that I have, you know. So it's really easy to weed people out.
Yeah. It's almost like doing like a shoot, what is it? It came to me and it left, so it must not be that important. But you know what? It's all good. If it comes to me, I'll tell you, like I'll message you. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just cool like having these conversations that are real, right? Like we're talking about things that I think people need to hear. And even the thing about like you're hiring them just as much as they're hiring you. And it would be a
100%.
disservice of you as a coach to to take them on and then hate working with them. Like that's a total disservice, or to undercharge or to overcharge. All of that would be a disservice to people coming to you, because then let's say you undercharge and you're not excited about working with them, or you can't fit it in the time, right? You can't actually prioritize it. Well, now they're not getting the result they need. Or if you were to
Right.
take them on and you're like, I don't like their mindset and I'm not willing to work with them on
Yeah.
it because they're not, well, now no one's getting what they need. And it's like, that goes back to, again, what you said, like coach camaraderie, or, you know, like you said, weeding them out, figuring out who might be a better fit. And I'm sure you'd be happy to refer them to some of your friends and vice versa.
Which I have.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Man, nail on the head.
So this has just been a really awesome conversation, and I'm very excited for everybody to hear it. And while they're listening, usually what happens are at the end, they'll screenshot it and they'll tag whoever's like on the show. So can you give everybody maybe your website and your Instagram handle, or just anywhere they can connect with you or work with you?
Yeah, for sure. My Instagram handle is my first and last name, Ryan Hinton. And my website is teamlegacypro.com. You can also find that on my Instagram.
Perfect. So I'm going to make sure all of those links are in the show notes. And if you're listening to this, there is going to be a category section, the Coaches Week section, that's going to have Ryan's episode there as well. But if you're listening to this like straight away, his will just be at the top and you can see all those links there too. So I really appreciate you coming on, Ryan, and everything you shared is just really awesome conversation.
I can't thank you enough, Celeste. It's been great. I needed this.
Me too. Me too. It feels so good. I feel like recharged. So to everybody listening, thank you guys so much. Make sure to go to www.celestial.fit/podcast for all the show notes and to check out any other episodes, info, events, things happening, all that good stuff. And with all that being said, I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.